Welcome back to just another solar podcast with Luke Beattie. That's me, Karl Jensen. G'day, Karl.
That's me, cold, but here.
And industry legend, Nigel Morris. How are you, Nigel?
I'm good, thanks. That's me. I'm here. It's cold here in Sydney too. We've just passed the solstice. So watching people's solar systems doing odd things and people being surprised at how little energy they're generating on the dashboard.
I can imagine all the calls to the retailers now. People look at their annual generation estimates and they're ringing up the retailers that just got their solar saying it's underperforming, right?
Well, not in our case. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of performance monitoring, is that because we can see how little solar radiation there is, and we can help explain that to people. And every year around this time, around the solstice, we usually put out a couple of articles saying, "Hey, don't have your expectations too high because it is, the shortest days of the year." And that's going to affect your solar performance. There's no need to panic. If you've got solar analytics and you've got our true performance monitoring, you'll be able to see whether it's working given the weather conditions and the solar conditions. So we do our best to actually calm customers down so retailers don't get those calls.
Social media has been lit up over the last couple of weeks with the big Aussie contingent that went to Intersolar. And I was fortunate enough to be one of them. I reckon there must have been 100 Aussies. And it's much bigger than the last time I went, was 2019. There's an extra 4 or 5 halls on the show. So there's a lot more in terms of e-mobility, charging. So I thought I might share just a few dot points about what I observed over there. But some of my points are, number one, EV chargers are everywhere. Inverter manufacturers, battery manufacturers, everyone's got an EV charger on their stand. Hydrogen is huge. There's a lot of stands, both utility scale hydrogen, residential scale hydrogen, genset hydrogen. It's all over the place. Obviously, it's part of the energy transition, but it's absolutely huge there.
It's interesting because Finkel came out today and said hydrogen can't compete. I was wrong. Hydrogen is not going to be able to compete in the transport space compared to where battery electric vehicles are at. So, and he was the author of the hydrogen report and one of the hydrogen strategies. So, hydrogen, will it or won't it, I say?
I don't think it will. At the end of the day, we can use all the hydrogen that we can make to make the world's fertilizers. And ultimately, we are the luckiest country in the world. We've got those solar and wind resources pretty much year round. There's no reason why we can't do it.
There was so many inverter and battery manufacturers that you've never heard of, hundreds of them, almost identical products. The inverters look the same, the batteries look the same. Likely they're coming out of the same factories, and that have a small 3x3 stand with 5 people on it and no one there actually talking to them. And as you walk past the stand, they look at you longingly. Now, there can't be that many factories out there. So you just got to wonder why they're just popping up these hundreds and hundreds of new brands out there. You've got to think there's going to be a consolidation there.
They're all the same, Luke. Then they probably are coming out of the same factory. And let's just hope that it's not the same scenario as 10 years ago when there was a whole lot of rubbish.
There's bound to be, isn't there?
There's bound to be. The best story I ever heard, actually, when the solar boom was taking off and everyone was starting to build solar panels who possibly could, was literally a cigarette lighter factory in China that went, oh, we could make solar panels instead of cigarette lighters. And they just switched their machinery out and started making solar panels. It didn't last very long. They were one of the grubbier ones that got booted out. But it just shows you, someone who's got a little bit of manufacturing capacity, once a product reaches that sort of commodity level in terms of what it actually takes to build it, and all the supply chains are in place to get all the stuff you need, which according to Facebook, everything's there for batteries now, then, brands buy some cells, jam them together, get a BMS and, convert your cigarette lighter factory. Off you go.
That sort of goes into the next point, that the big companies and the large ones and the market leaders are absolutely miles ahead of everyone else. So the ones who are established, your top panel companies, your top inverter companies, battery companies, their stands are even bigger, more elaborate, and as popular as anything. And then when you go from them to the next tier down and then to these 2-bit operators, there's absolute daylight between them. And those ones have gone from strength to strength.
When you look at the capacity, the manufacturing capacity of modules versus inverters, there was always a space, and there's still probably is a space for more of them. Well, we talked about it on another episode, 1,500 gigawatts of manufacturing capacity. The guru of all things data being Dougal at Fronius. We were talking about this yesterday. He said, the actual installed capacity hasn't caught up with that yet. So it's all fine about having the capacity to manufacture it, but the installation capacity is probably running at 900 gigawatts. And maybe next year it'll hit 1,500 gigawatts. But that's a hell of a lot of gigawatts of inverters to manufacture. And you big Chinese players like Huawei and SunGrow that have gone into the commercial space for solar farms, that's because that's a huge chunk of the market that, we're probably never going to see in Australia because we've got such great rooftops. Our population density is low enough that we can have our own solar. So we're just probably not going to see those massive solar farms.
And in PV Magazine today, it said that Germany has installed 5 gigawatts of PV in the first 5 months of the year.
Which is awesome.
Wow. Still going after all these years.
Now, my last point, an observation from Intersolar, is that novelty stuff and free drinks are still the winners. If you want to pull a crowd, have a cool robot doing something funky, have a smart flower that opens up or goes around, or just stack the bar, get a cool band or a DJ, and you'll get a crowd.
Oh, you know what I'm interested in is, what was the sort of standout? What was the thing that you kind of went, all those halls, all those booths, all that tech? What was the one thing that you walked away going, I didn't expect that, or I haven't seen that before, or that caught me by surprise? What was it?
Oh, it's definitely got to be how bad Fronius beer has been over the years. Fronius beer is terrible. That's the definite standout. Oh my God, where did they find this shit?
What a letdown. What about you, Luke? You were actually there, not dreaming about Fronius's beer like Jensen.
It seems like there wasn't a lot of new stuff if you've got your finger on the pulse and understand the tech, but it seemed that they were trying to outdo what they had done already. So there were 700-watt solar panels in a new format of 2.5 meters by my arm's length, basically. I don't have anything that was a complete standout, to be honest, Nige.
So we're still waiting for the 1,000-watt panel.
Well, they could make it today, couldn't they? We're just going to go to a 3.5 meter format. Installers will just have to suck it up, I suppose.
Now, Beattie, your opinion on what was interesting at Intersolar's nice, but did you talk to anyone else while you were there? Did you get any other views on what's good over there and catch up with anyone else?
I certainly did. I actually had the microphone with me and had a few little chats along the way. There was probably a couple of ones that I'd like to slot into this episode. So the first one is Andy McCarthy, formerly the CEO of RACV Solar, recently retired. He's been doing some new things and interesting things, so I made sure I got hold of him for a bit of a chat.
Always very well spoken and a great talker around our industry. We're lucky to have him.
Absolutely. So we might just throw to that and have a listen to Andy McCarthy. And I've got here one of the most famous retirees of the solar industry, Andy McCarthy, formerly CEO of RACV Solar. You're here for a holiday, I'm guessing, Andy.
Yeah, I am, and I'm only trashing my own personal reputation now, not that of the businesses that I represent. So I'm very relaxed and I'm having the best time of my life.
Yeah, cool, man. So you don't have any restrictions on behaviour or expectations?
No, not only the ones that my wife has placed on me. But
that's pretty significant.
Yeah, and she knew what she was marrying, to be honest, Luke, so she has to deal with the consequences.
Yeah. And before you came here, you went to the Isle of Man and saw the TT.
Oh, yeah, I did.
What was that like?
I can't. My God-given mission next year for Intersolar is to take a cohort of Aussies before Intersolar over to the Isle of Man for the TT race. There's nothing on earth like it. Sitting on a brick wall.
Just give a quick summary of what it is.
So the Isle of Man is between the UK and Ireland. So there's a 38-mile racetrack there. They close the main road around the town and they turn it into a racetrack for 2 weeks. And people just sit on rock walls watching the bikes go past at like 200 miles an hour with rock walls on both sides.
300 Ks?
Yeah, over 300 Ks. So yeah, there was 6 deaths last year in the races, and there was 2 this year. So it's not without risk, but the exhilaration of sitting on a rock wall and watching a bike going that fast, like a metre or two away from you, is just insane.
Because I've been to the racing, I went to the F1 recently, and they've got barriers, and then they've got more barriers and distance.
Yeah.
You're saying there's people on rock walls right next to it.
I can't believe you're still allowed to do it. Like, it's quite insane. And the other thing I love about it is that I'm a Formula One man as well.
Yep.
And, you know, even it would cost you $4,000 or $5,000 to get into the pits, and you wouldn't be allowed to see the drivers. The riders in the Isle of Man, they're actually working on their bikes in the pit lane. You can just walk up and say good day to them an hour before the race.
No way.
So you got open slather, and you go. I was having beers with some bloke after the race because I don't know the riders. I having beers with some dude from Warrandyte in Melbourne, and then everyone kept tapping me on the shoulder asking for a photo. I'm like, oh, this guy must be a big deal. And they're like, mate, he just raced. He came sixth. I was like, oh, cool. So I followed him to the after parties and just had the best day of my life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
And here we are in Munich. It's good to be back. I mean, there's lots of familiar faces, a few new ones. Yeah. What stood out to you so far?
Oh, just the combination of friends new and old. I mean, you know as well as I do, Luke, you've been coming here for a while, and every year is just like layer after layer of relationships that you develop with these people. And, you know, we enjoy our conferences and our networking sessions in Australia, but nothing compares to coming halfway around the world. You know, with the Aussies at Intersolar WhatsApp group, the chat was lit about 2 weeks before we arrived. There was already some famous photos in the past that were dredged up from the annals of history. And you know, we got a record contingent this year and all three springers. So I think between those two records, I think it's going to be one for the ages.
I think all the dance floors in town would know that they're here, mate.
It's like a scene from Braveheart. The Aussies are coming.
And turning up to Augustina Keller last night, and the Springers boys are in lederhosen, traditional outfits.
Yeah.
And I asked them about it, you know, did you pack it? And they're like, no, we saw it in the shop across the road, and they spend like €1,000.
Oh, is that?
Just so, yeah.
Oh, they didn't tell me how much.
Authentic Bavarian kit.
Yeah, leather and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They don't do anything in halves, mate.
No, they don't. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen all three springers in the one room at the same time. So that tells you the size of the trip we're going to have this year.
Now, business-wise, so you've obviously retired recently from RACV, but you do have some business that you're undertaking over here. Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, I was trying to take a 6-month sabbatical. Anyone that knows me would know that
I heard the podcast.
Yeah.
You went on Solar Insiders. I'm like, Andy's going to take a break.
I'm like, I'm done. I'm retired for 6 months. I'm having a sabbatical. And then I was like, oh, but I'll be over in Europe when Intersolar's on. So I couldn't resist the chance to come over. And once a few people knew that I was back on the market, actually some opportunities in Europe and the UK and the US started to pop up. So yeah, I've had some meetings over here. So I might be working with the government over here in one of the emerging industries, just teaching them about some of the things that we did well and things we did poorly in Australia. The one thing I've realised from having some of these global conversations is that like Australia is like a beacon for the solar industry. The level of uptake of rooftop solar, and they haven't seen the dramas and the challenges that have come with that. They just see us as being just on this pedestal and being an incredible success story globally. So, you know, those insights into the Australian market and also my experience in mergers and acquisitions and building organisational culture, I think hopefully has some value. So for a while, I'm just going to do some consulting in 3 or 4 different roles. Okay. And you know, that will tell me what the next thing looks like, I suppose.
Yeah, right. And we're talking about interconnection to the grid and the issues with saturation or more compliance with installs?
Well, I think for me, one of my biggest passions is about building blue-collar capability, getting the delivery capacity up there, because I feel like governments right across the world, they're really good at creating demand, incentives and whatever else to generate uptake. But without the shiny suits and the dirty boots to deliver it, we're not going to be able to get to our targets. In every state, every territory, every country, we are well short of the capability that we need to hit these targets. So for me, something I'm really passionate about is getting these 15, 16, 17-year-old superstars that are coming through that could do anything with their career and saying, like, renewable energy is the mission that you need to commit your professional life to. Like, we need really, really good people of all ages, all nationalities, all skills, and showing them that, like, you got to do something that gives you purpose. And as you and I both know, like, what's going to give you a better purpose than creating a better planet for our children and their children?
For sure. Ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it? I mean, we all want to build businesses and we all want to be financially comfortable, but, you know, I often reflect on the fact that I can do that in a way that creates opportunity for really good people, and I feel like I'm doing something to make the planet a better place for the next generation, and it feels really good. It's a fantastic mission.
You've achieved a lot in the industry, but I've got this sense that the best is yet to come still, mate.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I just have no idea. I must admit, like, I'm 41, did 13 years with Gippsland Solar and RACV. My contract ended last week, and so I've stepped aside, and I don't have much ambition at all, to be perfectly honest, at this current stage.
Have you bought a yacht?
Oh, no, I don't know what to do, mate, to be honest. I don't want a yacht. I might go and...
I don't think you're ready for that.
No, I'll wait till Jack Hooper buys one and I'll go on his yacht.
They do say that. It's always better to have a friend with a boat rather than own one yourself.
Right. Yeah. Might go to Perth and jump on Aiden's boat.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's right. Don't have
Apparently
to maintain
it's a ripper
the thing.
too.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, honestly, I feel like I've worked hard for 13 years and built a great team. Proud of what we've done.
Yep.
But I'm also conscious of the fact that it's taken a toll mentally and physically on myself, my health and well-being. It's taken a toll on my family.
Yep.
And it's time just to step back and spend some more time with the family. And, we're travelling to about 15 countries while we're over here between the next 4 or 5 months. Cool. So I'm just going to make the most of that, and then we'll just see what the universe has in store.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for having a quick chat. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show, mate. And great to catch up with you.
Awesome, mate. I'll see you out there for a stein tonight.
Come on, mate.
Yes.
Cheers.
So I don't think Andy was giving everything away that he's doing there, but I get the sense behind the scenes that he's bouncing around and sharing some of the amazing lessons that the Australian industry has to share with the rest of the world, right? I mean, he's kind of grown a business from a very, very small business up to a very, very large business, and now got the ability to knock around with some really, really interesting folks and just go and listen and talk and network with other people, both locally and around the world, and hopefully share some of those lessons. Really fascinating chat.
And good to see that we're exporting our experience and our intelligence and smarts to other markets.
Yeah, I have to actually, I don't think I mentioned this last episode, but I went and visited Jake Warner out at Penrith Solar the other week. Actually jumped on an episode of his podcast with Mark Kavanagh. And I have to say, when you see what people like Andy and Jake and I don't want to single them out, there's lots of other awesome people building awesome solar businesses. But, when you actually get to see something like what Jake's built, you just go, I've never seen a solar facility like that. I actually stood there just with my jaw on the ground going, I can't believe you've built this, man. There was so many parts to it. And I said, who inspired you? What inspired you to build this amazing business? And he said, well, part of it actually came from seeing what Andy was doing when he was starting to sort of systematize his business and build it to really, really, really scale up. And Nigel, I used to work in McDonald's. And so I've tried to McDonald's-ize solar. And by that, he means make it repeatable, make it controllable, make it really simple, make it trustworthy, all those good things, have good systems and processes behind it, training processes, mock roofs, training facilities for the staff, a control room to die for, a funked up sales team, and an amazing, amazing facility. So, yeah, I never cease to be amazed actually at when you go and actually step outside Australia and look around the world and then come back to Australia, you go, you know what? Fucking killing it.
Yeah, we've definitely got some very smart people in the industry all round. The distributors and manufacturers that we deal with, Clenergy stand out there. They've done sensationally well, and obviously their products are getting exported all over the world as well.
So, and you catch up with anyone else, Beattie, while you were there to get another perspective on what it was like bouncing around, on a big German junket?
I did, mate, and it was actually just leading into Intersolar. So there was the Australian contingent of around 40 people who went to the Fronius factory, but the bus ride from there to Munich is around 3.5 hours. They get some beers going, and everyone's just socialising and cross-pollinating ideas and so forth. So one of the people I grabbed hold of was Christine Kennedy from Total Solar Solutions and AWISE. All right, so the bus trip from Fronius in Austria to Munich takes a few hours, so we've had a couple of conversations, and now we've got Christine Kennedy from Total Solar Solutions and AWISE. Hey, Christine, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Luke, how's the bus ride treating you?
Well, it's pretty good. I mean, we're driving through postcard territory. We've gone through Austria, Salzburg, mountains, lakes. It's all very green.
It's
We're
stunning,
around Bavaria
isn't it?
now.
It's absolutely magical, this area.
Yeah.
The snow-topped mountains and rolling hills. It's just beautiful, isn't it? It's living in a dream.
It's true. It's been really nice and sunny too. Weather's been beautiful compared to, say, Victoria at the moment. How have you found it? Have you had fun?
Yeah, I've had a great time. It's been a real dream for Reese and I to come to Intersolar. We were planning on coming in 2020, and we all know how that panned out.
COVID.
So for us, we were super excited when we were asked by Fronius if we were interested in coming over to Austria. We'd already planned we were doing Intersolar this year. It was certainly on the bucket list, and we were arguing over who was more excited to come here, Reese or myself, because we're just big Fronius fans, and I absolutely adore Mrs. Strauss.
And you guys did it really well, because you didn't just come to the Fronius factory in Intersolar, you've been gallivanting around the place. So how's that been? How long are you taking off? Where have you been? Where are you going?
Yeah, so we started our trip with a bit of a personal holiday. So we were travelling for 3 weeks before we joined the Austria contingent.
Yep.
So we were in the UK, so England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and then we're in Budapest, and then took the train from there to Austria.
And as a business owner,
yeah,
it's probably hard for you to take extended time normally, or when's the last time you had a holiday that long?
We have a really amazing team, and we've got a really well-established team. So, I've got to give credit to them. The business doesn't stop just because Reese and I step out of the door for a day or for a week or for a month, as we have this time. Certainly we haven't gone on an overseas trip since 2019, so it's the biggest holiday that we've had for a very long time. So really appreciate them holding down the fort to make my Fronius dreams come true.
Yep.
But yeah, for us, work-life balance is certainly important. I'm not a big believer in work-life balance. I think when I try and search for that, it doesn't work very well. So I'm more work-life cohesion. So
right.
Although we've been on this trip, we still, respond to emails and fit in a little bit of work here and there. We might
the
take a
time
couple
difference
of
is a killer,
calls.
though. The emails and calls.
The time difference has had its challenges, although while we're on a tour in the UK, it worked really well, because we were waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning here, which was about 3 p.m. in the afternoon back home. So we would be able to attend to anything that had kind of happened that day before everyone kind of left for the day, and then they had answers for the next day as well. So
but I suppose you mentioned your team. You must have a great team with a lot of trust and competence for you to be able to just step away and come in as you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a brilliant team, and a team that have been with us for substantial amounts of time. So majority of our team have been there at least 2 to 3 years, with some of our more senior staff that have been looking after things while we're away, being with us for 5 and 6 years. So, certainly there's a lot of trust that we put in them. We love our business and we take a lot of pride in what we do.
Yep.
But I think you do really have to trust your people and empower your people for them to step up and, take on more challenges and problem solve things. So, it works
good.
well.
And do you have a strategic approach to Intersolar? Or are you just going to turn up there and see what you see?
I was trying to get some tips from people at Smart Energy Conference in Sydney a month or so ago, and one of the tips was wear comfortable shoes. So I've done that.
Really good advice.
Yeah, I've done that. I think my strategy, because I want to try and see everything, so I think I might break it down. We're there for 3 days, so break it down into different segments and try and do each segment at a time rather than try and do the whole thing in one go.
But apparently there's like 4 different conferences in one. So they've got e-mobility, they've got EV charging, ESS and Intersolar. So it's sort of a convergence of all these other adjacent technologies and industries.
I haven't been, so I'm really going to have to be strategic with my approach, I think, and get some advice from some of the most experienced people, I think, and in where to go, what to see first. And, for me, I'm really excited to just see products that we don't have in Australia. And, I think maybe in Australia we kind of live in our own little island to a certain degree. So I'm really, really excited to see what goes on in the rest of the world.
Yeah, cool. And you're another one of these amazing women who are in the leadership of AWISE, who all seem to be juggling lots at the same time. And clearly you do it well. So what's going on in the world of AWISE at the moment?
Yeah, really exciting.
Australian Women in Solar Energy.
Really exciting stuff happening with AWISE. We've really just been strategic with AWISE at the moment and setting up our company structure in the best way possible, so that the next few years and few decades, and like Mrs. Strauss was saying, like long after we've gone, that it continues to roll on. But yeah, certainly some exciting projects in the pipeline, and really, really looking forward to our All Energy day before event, our full day event that will be running in October.
So that's the day before All Energy, isn't it?
Yeah, so the planning's just started for that.
Because that was huge last year. I mean, it sort of came together. There was a lot of buying. It's not just for women. A lot of men, a lot of companies align with the, your strategy and the ethos of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it was a great...
guys, girls, I don't know. Yeah. That's gender neutral.
What the team are doing at AWISE. But, it was great to see such a variety of people within the industry, and, so many, like, male champions. There's probably about, maybe I'd say 40% male to 60% female, and there was some incredible male leaders out there that brought huge teams along to the AWISE day.
I'm actually sitting next to one. Liam Ricketts is here. G'day, Liam.
G'day, mate.
So it's been just phenomenal to have that, that group of people coming together, and it was like everyone had been, coming to these events for years, because I just found that so many people were talking to each other. There was some great conversation.
Yep.
There was, the speakers were wonderful, but that's my own biased opinion. But I did find that, a lot of the people that attended were really willing to chat to other people, and I think collaboration is so important in this industry, and it makes for us a stronger and better industry.
It does. And I saw that the Smart Energy Council in the last couple of weeks sent out a survey to industry, and that was around, baseline diversity and all that sort of thing too, which they're also supporters of what AWISE is doing as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that.
Yeah, there was some quite, some interesting discussion, I guess, on socials about, best person for a job, and does gender really matter? And I know...
that blew up.
Yeah,
that was on Solar Cutters.
We've been overseas, so I've kind of had my head in the sand a little bit. But I know that for us as a business, we've got, women working in all the areas of our business. And I know that collaboration makes for a stronger business. It makes for a better team culture. I know firsthand that having women on the tools has made, our electrical team stronger, more cohesive, more positive. The culture was better.
On that note, though, like some of the business owners and industry leaders who commented on that said, we're open to employing women installers, but we've struggled to find women who are willing to come and do the job.
Yeah.
So is that, how do you address that?
Yeah, so our first female apprentice back in 2020, Naomi, she, we were looking for a good six months to hire an apprentice. We wanted the right person, and it was a good 6 months before we found her, when we were really, really open to, whoever that next person was going to be, for them to fit the team, and if it was going to be a woman. What I did find is, after she started with our business, after that we had other women that were interested in becoming electricians, and it really opened the doors for our business to...
So you think having the first one was enough for other women to look at it and say, hey, I would feel comfortable coming to work?
100%.
Yeah, right.
And the team, then when we had Maddie start with us, the team were just like, oh, cool, Maddie's starting work with us. And it wasn't like, oh, but, is Maddie a girl? It didn't matter who Maddie was. It was just like, okay, cool, Maddie's coming to work with us and start with us. And they don't treat her any differently because of her gender. Like, she'll go and carry, get the big ladder down from off the roof of the van. And it was funny, the other day before we left, I was out on site with the team, and it was great, and I was doing some content shots, photos and videos and that sort of thing. And off she went, and then she came back with this massive ladder, and I was like, where'd you get the ladder from? And she was like, oh, off the roof of the van. And I said, did you lift that down on your own? She's like, yes. And I think she thought she was going to get in trouble. And I was like, there's a lot of people in the solar industry that don't think that a girl could do that, right? And she's like, of course I can. Like, she's got 2 arms and 2 legs, and she's like, there's nothing, there's no barrier to be able to stop her. But I think also we need to be conscious about what we are lifting. Like, there's occasions where it's manual handling, right? And I'll pull up male apprentices and go, hey, why are you carrying that on your own? Like, you can't be carrying that. That's not safe to be able to do that. And in our warehouse even, making sure that we've got, lift trolleys and things like that, so that, like, I take delivery of, of stuff in the warehouse all the time, and I'm not going to lift a 20 kilowatt SIMO inverter. I will just get my trolley.
But I do think that the size of the panels has grown.
Yeah.
They're wider.
Yeah.
And even, it doesn't matter what your gender is, that can be difficult, particularly for residential, because it's also access.
That's a big discussion that Reese and I have been having at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's not just about Maddie being able to lift panels. It's also about Reese being able to lift panels. And he's not a small guy. And he's been installing solar for, over a decade. And for him to say, no, these panels are getting too big and too heavy, when you look at the wingspan on him, you definitely know that they're getting up there in terms of weight. I'm looking at it right now, actually. Just to jump onto something different, there was a bit of conversation on the bus last night, coming back from dinner and the amazing day we had. And you guys spoke about the cheeseburger challenge. Oh, no, the cheeseburger challenge.
Yes, you have to share it.
Oh, okay. So, I think, like, the prankster in Reese has always been that, comes up with these crazy challenges. And so when staff start with us, it doesn't matter when you're in the electrical team or if you're a salesperson. But, within the first 6 months generally of starting, you'll get the opportunity to do the cheeseburger challenge. So it's eating 10 cheeseburgers from McDonald's, and you get a large Coke to wash it down within half an hour.
It's a lot of food, though.
It's a lot of food. Most get to about 6 pretty comfortably, but by the time they get to about 7 or 8, they really start to slow down.
And what's the prize?
So if they eat the 10 cheeseburgers, Reese will buy them a slab, or if they don't finish it, they have to buy him a 6-pack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've also had one of our apprentices. He ate 13. He just kept going. So
13 cheeseburgers.
13.
How big is this dude?
He's 6 foot, so he's quite tall. But
I suppose you see those eating challenges, the hot dog ones, and some of the guys who eat 50 hot dogs, they're tiny.
I think I would be worried. They just run out of cheeseburgers, so they couldn't get any more cheeseburgers. But I'd be worried he might have got to 20 or something. I think maybe he'd pre-prepared for it and hadn't eaten for 48 hours beforehand or something. But yeah, a bit of fun. You got to have a bit of fun.
Yeah. So Christine Kennedy from Total Solar Solutions and AWISE as well. It's been good to have a chat. We should have a chat again on an episode that's not a chop up from a bus on the way to a trade show.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But I'm very excited to be heading to Munich and Intersolar, and it's just been a great trip to have with Fronius and with the other guys and girls that have all come along for the ride as well. It's been great hanging out with everyone.
Thanks for chatting.
Thanks, bye.
So Christine's always good value. She's always got, she and Reese have got a really nice little business down there, and it's wonderful to see all the work that they're doing, not just in their own business, but actually, Christine's working at AWISE, and Reese is always ringing me with some weird question about some interesting project that he's working on, and it's actually really good. It's fantastic to see people like that starting to experience what's going on and getting a taste for what's going on in the rest of the world as well. I know they've done a little bit of it before, but it's been ages. And what a great insight to hear what a couple of local Victorian folks found when they went to Austria, hey? I did pick up that there was no mention in Christine's interview of the photo that I saw of you and the springers in your underpants about to jump into an Austrian lake somewhere.
Take a deep breath. Yes. So we, up till lunchtime, we're in sessions with the Fronius crew. Mrs. Strauss and the management were taking us through some of the sessions, the roadmaps and the encouragement and the Fronius story. And then we jumped on a bus to a lake, Gemunden, did tobogganing, went walking through. There was a whole bunch of activities that we did. And then we went down to the lake where we were going to go on a cruise for dinner. Now, the three Springers brothers were there, and they were adamant they were going to go into the lake, which was absolutely freezing cold. I think Joe bought a towel from one of the guys on the boats for €50. And then they're marching down to the water, and everyone's got wind that the Springers are going in the water. So the group of 40 starts going down to watch what they're doing. Joe Springer turns around to me and he goes, "Beattie, are you coming in?" How do you say no? So we didn't have swimmers, got the kit off, jumped into the water, which was freezing cold. And yeah, needless to say, we got out of there, had to put our kit back on and go on the boat. And obviously you don't put the wet stuff back on. It was an interesting cruise. The end.
Rowan's got to win some award there for jumping in the river and encouraging everybody at the hotel to swim in the river every morning on a previous trip. But it's not like we're any stranger to jumping in the water. The English Garden, obviously, bit of swimming going on there.
It's not unprecedented, mate. I'm just trying to make it dramatic. It was actually a lot of fun.
So always a lot of fun.
It's always good to hear about a big exhibition offshore somewhere with a whole bunch of Aussies, taking advantage of the moment and not missing a chance to, have a new experience, do something exciting. So good on you, mate. You're living it vicariously for Karl and I while we just stayed here and just worked.
But the beauty was, going around the trade show, I was determined to actually get through the whole trade show, not just meet with the partners. So I worked my way through the halls, and you'd be seeing Aussies everywhere you turned. And everyone had the same wide-eyed experience. Just really enjoyed it, got a lot out of it, and very grateful for being able to go.
Yeah, it definitely increases morale massively. So at the end of the day, you bring back a whole heap of energy that is otherwise difficult to find in winter, particularly in Melbourne, where it's cold.
All right, guys. Well, seeing as I was talking and pretty long-winded on those interviews, I think that's about all we've got time for. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I'll throw one in just for interest's sake, is that been having some really interesting conversations with people. We've got a couple of announcements that we've made and a couple more to come, actually. We've got a big launch that's happening next week, which I can't actually say anything about yet, but except that it's happening. So we've got some new stuff that we're about to get out there. We've got some stuff that we launched last week. But what was really interesting was how many people in solar businesses I've spoken to over the last week or so who are kind of in that, let's set next financial year's strategic goals now. So there's a lot of people in that kind of final phase of getting ready to kick off everything else. All the new stuff, all the new ideas, all the things that they learned at Intersolar, or all the things that they've been stewing on for a few months. So it's a really interesting time of year, June, because everyone's sort of getting ready to kick off the next financial year. So I'm kind of excited. Looks like we're going to have a really, really strong finish to the financial year, and then excited about what people have got planned for next financial year and a whole bunch of new stuff coming out. So I'm kind of pumped today.
Look, the only thing that I wanted to show off about Luke was I got to be on Ria's show from Greenbank, Up on the Roof, her podcast. So that went live today. So I guess that means that I'm famous.
So people can check that out on YouTube, Up on the Roof. And also, Nige, do you remember Jake?
Yeah,
Warner's
Jake
one?
and I did it. Yeah, it's the Penrith Solar YouTube channel, actually. He does a great job of punching out tons and tons of material. He's doing live updates from Intersolar, of course, and everything else. And we had a really good chat, he and I and Mark Kavanagh, actually, a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully that'll turn up soon too.
Yeah, good stuff. So both of those channels are worth checking out. Lots of good content and conversations. So make sure you get around them, and we'll wrap it up from there. Thanks for listening, guys. And please like, subscribe, share around. Feel free to give us any feedback. If you want to reach out via socials or personally, do that. And have a good one. Cheers.